When you go through life as a man, if you're paying attention, you will come to see where you have perhaps been influenced by angels. And if not a literal angel, somebody that was sent by God to give you a message. In my own life, right around the time that I started this channel, I encountered this older gentleman while working a booth at a gun show. And this old guy comes up and strikes a conversation like he knew me. One of the things that he said to me that stuck with me, first of all, because it was hilarious at the time, but as time has passed, has come to be prophetic. He said that I was going to be a messenger for the Lord, that I was going to find myself involved in the ministry. So me and my buddies got a real kick out of that, because when I came here, my initial intention of this channel was to help young men navigate the relationship chaos that we have in the West, to give the young men that were in the manosphere red pill space a different perspective, one of accountability and looking at oneself and dealing with the things that we encounter. And in my own life, there was chaos. All the things that so many of the guys that have the largest platform and the biggest mouth, the things that they preach to young men as being important, the cars, the money, being a kickboxing champion, all of these things are shallow metrics. And the reason why I know this is, with the exception of kickboxing champion, I've accomplished all of those things in my life. And even though I haven't been in a ring, I know how to defend myself. And so the ability to harm people, money, access to women, all of these things that these guys tell young men are the pinnacle of the apex of being a high value dude, those are actually the temptations of evil, of the devil. That is pretty much what Satan offered Jesus on the mountaintop if he merely bowed at his feet, which is what these influencer dudes wish you to do: buy their program, get enlisted in their cult. So when that was the first part of it, but the other part of it was my own struggle with sin, because even though I had everything externally that people claim to want in life, and even had a beautiful wife, I still wanted more. I still felt like I deserved more, entitled to more. And so I came to the verge of wrecking my life with the decisions that I was making. And one of the things that was a consistent narrative in my life was my war with God. You see, because when I was a younger man, I tried to dive into the spiritual realm. I joined the church, began to pray, read the Bible. But then the people that were supposed to be my brothers betrayed me. And then I prayed for a certain outcome from God, and he didn't give me what I asked for. And so with the betrayal of the people that brought me to his feet, along with the ignorance of my prayer, I went to war. And I became Saul from the Bible. And everything about my walk, everything about my life was anti-Christ. I went out of my way to try to destroy the faith of those that leaned on Christ even. And so when this man told me that I was going to be involved in being a champion for Christ, it was hilarious. I was in the midst of my own darkness, sinning constantly. And the idea that I was going to be on the other side of this conflict, it was laughable. Me and my buddies literally laughed about that later on that night as we were drinking Jack Daniels and plotting the next move we were going to make. But over the course of the past couple of years, a lot of things have changed. And one of the things that has been the catalyst for that change was me being forced to pray. My life had gotten so chaotic, and I was on the verge of losing everything that mattered to me. and I had nowhere else to go. There were no answers. There was no one to turn to. And so I prayed and I asked for guidance and discernment. Very simple. No, give me what I want. Just show me what I'm missing. And so when my eyes were open to the problems that were in my world, all I saw was myself. All I saw was the mirror. And when I went inside and started to take accountability, everything in my life began to change. It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't some on the surface, outward showing to the world. It was just a breakdown. And that is why I've had so many gaps in making content for the channels, because I've had to go deep and reconstruct my life. At 55 years old, I'm still trying to figure out how to be a good man. And a good man is different than high value man and all of the things that the world would have one be. But now that I've reached this place and I'm here with this message, I see that old man was touched by an angel at minimum. I look at what's going on in our world today. This latest assault on children by this demonic psychopath. A lot of people have taken the opportunity to put their spin on it. The right, the left. People have these opinions about things that are purely worldly, that fit in whatever narrative or whatever side that they are choosing to defend or fight with. The truth of this is very, very simple. The truth of what's going on and what we're seeing today, it's very simple. This is indeed a spiritual battle. Ephesians tells us that we are not in combat, in conflict with flesh and blood. This is powers beyond our realm. And one of the things that solidifies my belief in God is the obvious existence of evil, of the counterpart. You see, a lot of men in this space have blamed feminism, racism, all of these different sects of hatred and vile contempt for other people. That's the reason why things are the way that they are. Women blame men, children are out of control. All of these things seem like that it's someone else's fault. It's flesh and blood's fault. But it's simply what the Bible has told us all along. We are dealing with principalities, demons, spirits, and the people that we see, like this maniac who attacked these children. These people are possessed. What he wrote on those magazines, that is something that a demon would say. That is something that a demon in a movie would say to someone when he was inflicting harm on children. Where is your God now? Young men have gotten to the point to where they don't care anymore. There's nothing to fight for. They've given up on life. Many of them literally. And so many people look at the younger generation and tell them, just get up, man. You gotta toughen up. You just gotta tough it out. You gotta do what we did. But this generation isn't like us. Young kids didn't get what we got. I'm Gen X. I believe that we were the last generation that saw the last wave come in, the last tide come in of morality and normality in this country. Since I was a kid, it has gone downhill. And now as an old man, I look at the young men and they are nothing like what we used to be. The ease, the comfort, and the infiltration of demons into every institution, every place where young men were made strong. This has been intentional. This has been a systematic attack on everything that made our nation strong. The belief in God, love of family, love of country, those were the three components that made other nations of strength not even think about coming to America. The devil knew that the only way to take this country down was to eliminate the things that made us strong, and they've done that. They've done it in a beautiful fashion. And now young men today, the most important fight in American history for sure, and possibly in the current iteration, human history. Because what we're dealing with is a battle for the soul of the world. We are in the middle of a spiritual battle. And while one side of the force is strong, the side that carries the dark flag covers their faces like bandits and ninjas and removes people's head for not agreeing with their ideology, that movement is strong. It's taken over the planet because Christians have become weak. The church has become weak, it's become tolerant, and the men have become passive. And that's the reason why all the young men laying down, all of the quitting, all of this has been facilitated. You have been made weak on purpose. Everything that made you strong, everything that was to give you hope has been destroyed on purpose. It's not because of the ist or the isms, it's because of the demons that control these factions. Now is not the time to quit. You were not born in this moment to be weak, to be apathetic, to look at the world burn and say, I have no reason to stop this. This is the catch-22. On one side of this blade, you are absolutely right. There is no reason to save this world. This world is the world that we knew in the West is over. It's been over for a while. This is just the pre-battle staging grumblings we're going through. And all you have to do to see how this conflict comes about is look over to the UK. Look what's going on in Australia. Right now is not the time to quit. Right now is not the time to be weak and to huddle up in your room and play video games, to let yourself wither away and die. You were born in this moment to be a warrior. That's why the devil has worked so hard to keep you weak. Christian men who follow the Bible, who follow Christ, not who follow some religious doctrine, who read the Bible, who move and live like Christ, who are willing to stand and defend what they believe. Those men are scary dangerous. Those men have gone by the wayside. The church has been infiltrated by demons. Our government has been infiltrated by monsters, demons, pedos. We have nowhere in this system, and it's falling. Just like every other great civilization, the barbarians have moved in, and they will be used against the native population. It's the way it always goes. But this battle, the pullers of the strings, the orchestrators of this circus that we see, they predicted this a long time ago. They told us what the first world conflict was going to be about, who it was going to be between, and what the final one was going to be. And the final one was going to be a religious battle between the black flags and the cross. That's the biggest threat to this nation. The biggest threat to this nation isn't white men. It isn't the Transformers. It isn't any of these things. All of these things are just talking points used by demons to hold their ground. And meanwhile, there's armies just assembling all over this nation quietly, using our laws against us. And once these people have enough numbers, once they feel confident, they'll do what they've always done. And that's what Americans are not ready for. Everything has always happened over there. It is now in our backyards. And we cannot afford for our young men to be apathetic and weak and not care. You don't have the option to not care. Because if and when this goes hot, You don't get the option to be an atheist. You convert or you lose your head. That's the way that this works. Look at what's going on across the world. That's the way that this goes. Look how bold these people are, and they just populated the UK. They already feel like it's theirs. The biggest threat to our country is Islam, the overtaking of our nation, of our ways by Islam. And that's precisely why they've worked so hard to make young people hate this country. Because once that conflict stirs up, who's going to fight on the Christian side? And those who convert, that conversion will be out of cowardice, not out of any belief system. Many people converted because Andrew Tate saw the same thing that I see, but he's such a coward that instead of being a true representation of what Christianity should look like, he ran over to Islam so he could go with the numbers, go with what was popular. Coward. Christianity has been ruined, but Christ has not been ruined. Christianity is supposed to have teeth. That's what you need to be worried about and working on. You need to become a godly man. You need to become a dangerous man. Because there's a time in the very near future that you are going to have to defend something. You're going to have to defend your space in this nation. When they decide that it's theirs, you don't get to stand on the sidelines anymore. You'll be forced on the field. And what kind of player in that game do you want to be? What kind of player in the game of war do you want to be? That's the decision that you need to make right now. There's no other thing that's more important than your soul or your safety. Those are the things that are up to you. And the only way that you're going to make it through what's coming to this nation is to have a good, strong relationship with God and fortify yourself to be a warrior. The time is coming that there's going to be another crusader movement. There's going to be a necessity for this. Because just like the Crusaders from the Knights Templar days, they are born out of necessity. And eventually, Christians are going to have to grow teeth. Men are going to have to become strong. And you're going to have to fight for something. So it's time to get ready, gentlemen. Out.